evening and welcome to another edition of the all-new Chrissy B Show. Our topic tonight, be cancer aware. Now tonight's topic is all about cancer and how it affects the lives of thousands of people daily. We have a representative here from the children's cancer charity Click Sargent to give us some insight into this disease later on. We hope to educate our viewers tonight by flagging up awareness of different cancers, so gather around your family and tell all your friends. However, before we go deeply into this topic, as you know, on every programme, or every week, every Friday on the Chrissy B Show, we visit a really nice restaurant. And I tell you, I really love this blog. I love doing this feature, as you could probably imagine, because I love food. So we went to a lovely Moroccan restaurant, and here's how it went. So we've been recommended this lovely restaurant called The Triangle, a Moroccan place. So we're just going to go inside and check out what the food's like because it comes highly recommended. So let's go inside and find out.
Maybe we should get one each.
Do you know what I really like actually is the little details, like for example the water being served in a jug like that's very authentic, and then the little plates and the Moroccan music in the background, it just adds to the whole whole atmosphere. It's like we're abroad. It feels like we're in Morocco somewhere or in the desert somewhere in the tent. So it's really nice. Yeah.
This is very authentic Moroccan food we have here.
And I've got the sirloin steak with the basil mash.
So this is actually the kangaroo fillet steak, so it's very different, but we'll see what it's like. I think it'll be nice.
The fish cakes are my mum's recipe, 100% fish, and a little bit of homemade chips or fries. And if you say fish cakes, you mean it. They are fish cakes with no potato in them, just lumps of a nice fresh fish.
So not only is the presentation fantastic, the food tastes delicious, but you get really generous portions as well, so I'm really full. I don't know about you guys.
I was really impressed by the food. I think I'm just blown away by it actually. The presentation was fantastic. All the taste, all the spice and wine, really authentic, really rich in flavour, and it looked great too.
Yeah. Okay, so I've had the most fantastic meal at this restaurant, and I'm just going to speak now a little while with Aziz, who is the owner of the restaurant. So Aziz, amazing meal. How long have you actually been based here?
It's almost 13 years. So it'll be 13 years in August.
And you're originally from Morocco. Which part?
Tangier, north of Morocco.
So is all the food that you have on your menu from that part?
It's not all of it, no. The spices are from Moroccan. Some dishes are from Morocco, from Tangier, from north of Morocco. But I also do other dishes which are like you've seen kangaroo and crocodile just as a gimmick, but also it is a nice meat. Kangaroo is a very lean, no fat in it, very good for you and tasty as well.
One thing that I really loved was the actual presentation of all the food. It looked absolutely amazing as well. So who does all that? Do you have someone trained, specialised?
Yes, and the chef is my brother. He works with me. I'm training him myself.
I would definitely recommend this restaurant. If you want something different, something authentic, you want great atmosphere, because, you know, what I really love about restaurants is the atmosphere itself as well. So you've just got to try this place. It will not let you down. Okay, the lovely Aziz there. So back to our topic of being cancer aware. Now, I know sometimes people try to kind of shy away from the subject. They don't really like to talk about it, but that's probably the worst thing that you can actually do. If there is a problem, you need to get it diagnosed quickly. So it is good to talk about it. It's good to get all your checks, but we're going to be talking more about that in a minute. Now, according to information from Cancer Research UK, the most common forms of male and female cancers are prostate cancer and breast cancer. Breast cancer is the most common cancer amongst women, but it is a fact that men also suffer from this. About 48,400 women and 317 men in the UK were diagnosed with breast cancer in 2009, whilst 11,556 women and 77 men unfortunately lost their lives as a result in 2010. Now, prostate cancer has been shown to have an increased likelihood in older men with families from an African heritage. That's something that I only found out today, actually. I didn't even know about that. And also that the risk of contracting this form of cancer is doubled if there is a family history of the illness. So do you or anyone you know suffering from cancer? Feel free to get in touch and share your comments or questions with us live. You can get in touch by email, chris@chrissybshow.tv, by phone if you wish, 020-7686-6300. You can also find us on Facebook, just search for The Chrissy B Show, and on Twitter @ChrissyB Show. Now let's go to a video now. This is a gentleman that's speaking about being diagnosed with testicular cancer, and here's what he had to say.
My name's Darren McDermott, I'm 45 and I live in Stopsley, Luton. I had an ache in my testy area. I went to my doctors and I was given antibiotics for a water infection. I left it, and then in December I thought, I can't carry on no more. I'm having to go to bed with a hot water bottle to take away the pain. So I went back to my doctor, and my doctor sent me to the Luton Dunstable Hospital. On my arrival, I was at the STD clinic, which is Sexually Transmitted Diseases Clinic, which I was tested for 5 STDs. Very, I wouldn't say angry, wouldn't say bitter, but more confused, because I wasn't there for that purpose. I was there because I had an ache. I was then asked to have an ultrascan. Halfway through my ultrascan, the radiologist stopped and said, you need to have a CT scan and you need to have it quick. So again, my fears were becoming reality. I got a call from the consultant who wished to speak to me. He advised me to bring somebody with me. So we went to see him, he sat me down, and he then told me that I had testicular cancer. I went in to the hospital to have my testy removed. I thought they'd taken the wrong testicle because my pain was all on the left and they'd removed the right one, but was advised that they had removed the infected one. It's what's known as referred pain. So after my radiotherapy, you come home and then you're left alone. At that particular point, I struggled to deal with my cancer. I couldn't talk to my family. I didn't want to get my family involved because I didn't want them to know that I was upset. I have 2 children, and my fears were, am I going to see my children grow up? Because I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to see my children grow, because my children are my life, and I didn't want to be taken away by this terrible disease. Like I say, we all come across as this macho type person. You know, I'm a bloke, I'm a geezer, I'm a lad, I can deal with it. And, you know, your children, my children are my life. That's what I live for. And I didn't like the fact that I wasn't going to be around. because, you know, I want to grow old with my children. I don't want to lose my life to cancer. I couldn't deal with this at all, so I needed help, and that's when I contacted Macmillan. She got me through the troubled times. It was like having my own personal counsellor. I started to feel stronger knowing that she was coming. I had a few anxiety attacks before she came, and once she was here it was fine. It was as if she was like, I don't know, like an angel, if you so to speak. She came in, and after she went I felt great. You try and hit it head on, but you have days where you can't. You have days where even now it comes back and it's just like literally smacks you in the face, and you think, oh geez, you know, where did that come from? Now I felt real anger because the fact that I didn't want to have more children, at the time I was 42, I didn't want cancer to make that decision. I wanted to make that decision. So what right did cancer have to say to me, you're not going to have children anymore? With my children, you know, seeing me go through my illness and seeing me come out a better person, maybe, a stronger person at times, but I tried to tell them, you know, life is short, be positive, reach your goals, whatever goals you have, whatever aims in life you have, because you just don't know what's around the corner.
That's so true. We don't know what's around the corner. That's a lesson for everyone, actually, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. So if you have your dreams, if you have your goals, just go for whatever you want to do in life, and, you know, don't hold back, don't wait for things to come to you. Just go out and grab it, because you don't know, as I said, what tomorrow holds. And something else as well. Now I know that men seem to have a real fear of going to the doctor. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes I think it's a bit of pride, because you know how men are. Sometimes you men watching, you know. But it's really, really important that you do go for your checks. If you do feel anything different in your body or something's not right, please do go and get it checked out. Now, thank goodness Darren actually did. He went, he got it checked out, and, you know, that he managed to get the help. And also as well, I think some men from, well, the men that I know in my life, you know, father, my husband, they don't normally like to talk about things. They don't like to talk about their emotions often. And that's another problem as well. There's nothing wrong with talking about how you feel and what's going on inside. You should talk to someone. As you see, like, as soon as Darren got that support, he felt a lot better. When you don't talk and you, as we often say on the show, when you internalize things, it's much, much worse. Things seem like much worse than what they actually are. And you do end up feeling a lot better when you speak to someone, even if they're not going through the same thing as you, but at least they can guide you, they can help you in some way. Well, joining me in the studio today, we have a very special lady. It's Pam Robinson from the charity Click Sargent. And she's going to be telling us a bit about her charity and how it all started. So good evening, Pam. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi.
So what does Click Sargent actually stand for?
Well, Click Sargent was formed from two separate charities that merged, and one was called Click and the other one was called Malcolm Sargent. So they kept both names and put it together, which is why it's not always familiar to people, because it's only been around for about 8 years with that name.
Okay.
But both organisations previously have been working with children with cancer for many, many years.
Okay. So when did it actually, the two charities merge? Was it recently?
It was 8 years ago.
Oh, 8 years ago. Okay. So just dealing with children?
Only children, not to 25-year-olds.
Not to 25. And I was sort of saying to you earlier, it must be really hard to deal with this with children, because, you know, how do you speak to them? What do you say?
I think it's really difficult, because I think that, you know, it very much depends on the age of the child. I mean, obviously we'll work with some very small babies that have got cancer actually as soon as they're born, right up to teenagers who in fact may be parents themselves. Right. So I think what's interesting for our staff is that they have to have a whole range of skills and abilities to be able to communicate with that whole age range, which is, you know, amazing. It's amazing.
I'd love you to go into more detail about that, because I'm really interested in that part. What kind of person, you know, can actually go there and help these children. We're going to go to a quick break first of all. So do join us afterwards. If anything that you hear on tonight's show affects you in any way, you need some help, you need some advice, please do email chris@chrissybshow.tv. We're going to put all the details on our website as well about the charities that we're showing on the programme tonight. If you want to view that, it's chrissybshow.tv, the website. So join us after this. Okay, welcome back. And before the break, we introduced Pam from the charity Click Sergeant, which deals with children from 0 to 25. Now, Pam, tell us a bit about how you got into working for the charity.
Well, actually, when I left school, I qualified as a nurse, and I nursed adults for quite a few years in the National Health Service. And then I went into social work and worked as a social worker for a few years, and then I decided to work with charities. Okay. So I've worked with children and young people for a lot of my career, the last half of my career. And I guess I just thought that there was no more deserving group, really, to put your time into. And I just thought, that must be so great, it must be amazing to be able to do that for a living. And now that's what I do.
But you must go through some really hard times. Can you talk us through a few maybe the challenges that you've faced?
Sure. I mean, I think it's difficult, really, because I think when you talk about children and cancer, people think about death and they think about losing children. And I think that happens. You know, there is no doubt that not all children survive cancer, but actually most do. And it's amazing the strength of children. So for all the children you work with who have sad stories and who have huge challenges in their lives, and the families that are really devastated by the effects of their child having cancer, actually there's always, you meet children and they just amaze you. They just amaze you with how brave they are, how much they adapt to what's going on, and just how positive they are. And that never, you never get fed up of that. So actually, you know, the good days are many more than the bad days. Good. I think for all of us.
And what does your charity actually do? Can you talk us a bit more about what support you give to the children, to the parents, and other things that you do?
Sure. Yeah, Click Sergeant's kind of the UK's leading charity working with children and young people with cancer and their families. And we've managed a range of services, really. We've got clinical support, practical support and emotional support. And I guess that the main aspects of our service is that we have nurses, we have social workers, we have youth workers, and we have play specialists, all who are out there working with families and children and young people, and just helping them to manage that cancer journey and helping them to try and just make some of those challenges just that little bit easier when they can.
So is it like, did you have counselling and things like that as well?
The social workers will generally be the ones that do an awful lot of the emotional support with families, and they'll work with them. They might refer them to other people, specialists for counselling, or they may end up doing lots of the support themselves. It really depends. Every family's journey is very different, and what they need in the way of support is very different. And so our staff all have to be able to really change and deliver a service depending on who's there and what they need.
And you mentioned practical help as well. What does that involve?
Very simple things. I mean, quite often when a social worker meets a family, one of the first things is that they need money. If you've turned up at hospital and your child suddenly got a raft of tests and you don't get home, sometimes for weeks, and your child's just been diagnosed, you need to have money. You need to travel to and from hospital. You need to arrange for your other children to get looked after. You need to pay for the hospital parking, which usually costs a fortune.
See, I didn't know that service was provided.
Yes, and we do very practical things like just helping people sort stuff out. It might be helping them arrange for other siblings to get care from extended family members or from neighbours. Sometimes it's really, really practical, and sometimes it's very complex what they do.
Oh, and as a parent, like, what kind of things could you look out for in your child to see if there is anything wrong? What are the signs, the symptoms? I know sometimes you can't tell, things just happen and you don't really see anything, but there are cases where you can actually spot some signs, aren't there?
I mean, I think it's difficult. Some children or young people will have cancers that are lumps, that are tumours, and so it may be that the sign that you notice is a lump. So it could be something very, very practical like that. Other times they'll have tumours that you can't see, or they might have cancers in their blood. And it's more likely in that situation that they'll actually be tired, they may bruise easily, they may be a bit grumpy and a bit sick, and perhaps quite restless. And it's really hard to tell, because obviously very young children, they can't say to you something hurts, or, you know, I feel sleepy all the time, or I'm just really cranky and I don't know why. Whereas in some ways when, you know, you're working with adolescents, it's easier. They tend to tell you, they're much more verbal.
So it is really important then, like if your child does, in the case of children that do actually complain about something, not just to think, oh, it's nothing, you'll be all right, just have a little rest, but to really keep an eye on it, because you never know. It's not to scare anyone, but it's just that the quicker that these things are diagnosed, the more likely is that there'll be a cure, there'll be help for it, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to remember that, you know, cancer in children is really very rare, but there are 10 children every day in the UK diagnosed with cancer.
Really?
Yeah. And so, you know, it's something that we've got to be aware of, and it's something parents have to contemplate, even though that's hard to do.
Yeah. Okay, well, Pam, we are going to speak a bit more about your charity in just a moment. We're going to go to another video now, another type of cancer, and let's just see, get the information from this as well.
My name is Tanya Wright, and I'm 43 years old, and the type of cancer I was diagnosed with is anal cancer. Did feel a bit like a poor relation in the cancers. It feels a bit weird to say that I would have preferred in some ways to have breast cancer, because people know about breast cancer, you kind of know what the treatment is. I thought my friends are going to be looking on the internet and looking up my cancer because they want to help and they want to understand, and they've probably never heard of it, and they're going to look it up and think, maybe there's something she didn't tell us about, or so. Yeah, it was a bit embarrassing. I think I was more not worried about the general public, but I was worried about what people close to me would think. I found some very basic information about anal cancer, but it was all the same. And then I thought, well, actually, I'd quite like to hear or understand someone else's experience that's gone through this. And I really struggled to find anything in England. And so I started this blog. So my husband and I sat down one night, and I said, right, you've got to help me think of a name. So we came up with a bum deal. We wanted some, well, I certainly wanted some humour. I was actually looking for funny things to talk about. So one day I go for radiotherapy, the most depressing place in the world, and I get myself all lied down, all as comfy as you can be on this bed, with a mould in your bottom, a putty kind of mould. So, you know, you can imagine I'm not that comfortable. So I'm lying there, and she goes off, and what they would do is they play nice music while you're being zapped, basically. And this one day, they've got this DVD on. And I came out and I said to the woman, I said, I can't believe you played that. She said, what? I said, I can't believe you played the Ring of Fire. That's just, what are you trying to do to me? And she said, oh, we didn't, did we? And she said, it's only a Western, you know, CD or whatever. And I said, well, it's Ring of Fire. So that was kind of an example of the way I've used humour to get through it. I'll get the results of the biopsy I've just had done soon. Hopefully that will allow me to kind of put it to bed for a little bit. But I'm really good at the moment. I feel like I did before, you know, getting on with life. My blog website, if anybody would find it useful to look at it, I'm happy for anyone to look at it. The URL is abumdeal.blogspot.com. You don't need the www.
Do you know what? I love her attitude. I mean, she saw the funny side, the humorous side of a really difficult situation. I think sometimes humour does get you through a lot of problems, not just illnesses and things like that, but any problem that you're going through, if you can see the humorous side or like that, it does make a big difference. What do you think, Pam, about that?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And with us, with the children and young people, I mean, we use play a lot so that they have fun. And whether that's playing on a Wii together or whether it's drawing or making things. And I think the great thing is that actually humour helps you to accept what's happening. And actually play is a way of helping children and young people to work out what's going on and make sense of it and actually express how they feel.
Yeah. And even the people around you, like your family, your friends, when you're going through something like that, you don't want miserable people around you and like tiptoeing. And obviously I know it's hard for friends and family as well, because sometimes you don't know what to say in that situation. You're there with someone that's not well, you don't know whether to, you feel like crying sometimes, you don't know what to say. It's really like an awkward situation, but from the person that has the illness, that from their point of view, they don't want miserable people around them or to act differently towards them, do they? What's your experience in this? How do you like advise people in this aspect?
Well, it's interesting because I think one of the things that we have with children and young people is that quite often when they've getting towards the end of their treatment and they want to go back to school and they want to go out and play and they want to do all the things that they used to do and get back to their friends, and actually it's really tough for parents because they're so used to worrying about them and they're so used to thinking about, you know, infection all the time and safety and whether they're going to be okay. It's really hard for them to actually let them go and let them develop their own independence. But
isn't it like a natural kind of thing for the parent now to be smother the child even more now? Like, oh, my
you know,
babies.
I mean, if you're young, you might have left home and started to go off to university, and then when something like this happens, it might be that you end up having to move home again, and you know, you don't maybe want to live with your parents again, but actually you need someone to help. So I think it's really tough. It's really tough to be yourself, and also for parents to be able to let
What
go.
advice? How would you advise parents then in this case that are maybe a bit clingy, understandably so, but they're finding it hard to kind of let go?
I think one of the things is if they've got any nurse or social worker helping them towards the end of their treatment. I mean, certainly at Clexargent, a lot of our nurses and social workers, they're really experienced at talking about that, and they'll help parents to actually get rid of some of those myths about and look at what really might be a risk and what isn't, and what is just their fear, and try and just allay some of those fear by talking about some very practical things that they could do to help their child to look out for themselves but still be able to go out and hang with their mates like they used to.
You see, it's always good to talk. I mean, it's all coming back to being open and expressing things that you feel, isn't it? Because that really does help. Now, I was actually astonished to find out that there are more than 200 types of cancer, and experts believe that our diets are closely linked to incidence of cancer. So it's been shown that diet can influence the occurrence of cancers of the mouth, throat, breast, stomach and bowel. As a result, it's recommended for our diets to be high in fibre, fruits and vegetables, and low in red or processed meats and salt. Now, before we go on anymore, I think it's almost time for a break, isn't it? No, not yet. No, they're telling me not yet. Okay, so let's go to another video. This one is about... sorry, say that again. Cervical, sorry, they're speaking in my ear. This one's about cervical cancer. So as we've said on this show, we are going to be covering different kinds of cancers and talking about, you know, people's experiences and maybe things that you need to look out for. So let's take a look at this one, see what you think.
I'm Richard Smith. I'm a consultant gynaecological surgeon at the West London Gynaecological Cancer Centre, which is part of Imperial College. Cervical screening is where women go to their doctor to have a smear done. And the purpose of taking smears is to detect CIN 2 and 3, and if you treat those conditions, then you virtually 100% of the time will prevent people getting cancer. 90% of people who have a smear will find that they will have a normal smear, and in a woman's lifetime, 10% of all women will get an abnormal smear. How many of those will get a high-grade lesion, meaning CIN 2 or 3, then you're down to 1 to 2%. How many people will actually have cervical cancer detected from a smear? Way less than 1%. So although most women going for that smear believe that it's been done to detect cancer, it is not, and it very, very rarely ever does detect cancer. Well, usually we don't treat CIN1 at the first diagnosis. It has to be there for at least 6 months. And if you've got borderline, then you're unlikely to get any treatment at all. The success of the treatment, very, very high, 95 to 98% at first treatment. And if it fails, so if you're unlucky to be in the 2 to 5%, then the second treatment, because you do the same treatment again, has got the same efficacy the second time round. The chance of you actually getting through that net and getting cervical cancer is incredibly low. The important thing to say is that for cervical precancer, there are no symptoms. So there's no discharge, no bleeding, no pain, nothing. Now, for cervical cancer, that's different. And the signs there are people can get pain, but more often their sign is that they're getting bleeding between their periods, or more pertinently, bleeding after intercourse. Now, of course, it's really important to say that the vast majority of people who have those symptoms do not have cervical cancer, but those are symptoms of cervical cancer. You may well come across the term HPV, and HPV stands for human papillomavirus. Now, that gets colloquially referred to as wart virus, which is a bad term because the types of human papillomavirus which cause cervical precancer and can lead on to cervical cancer do not cause warts. 85% or up to 85% of all men and women will get infected with human papillomavirus at some point in their lives. But the vast majority of people will get rid of that human papillomavirus without ever getting an abnormal smear. 90% of them will get rid of it without having any cervical precancer or cervical cancer. The other thing which is very contentious about human papillomavirus is a lot of people think that it's a sexually transmitted infection and therefore somehow implies infidelity on either their part or their partner's part, and that is not true. So the HPV vaccine has been developed because we know that HPV is found within cervical tumours. And this vaccine has been well tried, well tested, and is being used at the moment in the United Kingdom, being given to girls who are 12 to 15 years of age, and there's a catch-up programme to aged 18. It's highly effective against two types of HPV, 16 and 18, and they account for 70% of all the cases of cervical cancer. Now, of course, that leaves 30% that are not covered by the vaccine, which is why, even if you've had the vaccine, you must still go to have smears. The success of the smear programme is so obvious to somebody in my position because we're actually doing very, very few operations these days for cervical cancer, and that is a testimony to the success of this programme. And the fact that the vast majority of the population go for smears, go for those smears regularly, is what is really important and is making the big difference in reducing the rate of cervix cancer.
Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show. Well, during the break, I was just thinking, I went to an event once where they were actually giving advice on how to support people that have cancer, if it was like a friend or a family member. And one thing they were saying, and actually someone with cancer was speaking about this, one thing she was saying, Pam, was that she used to find it very difficult to ask family and friends for help. So like she needed like basic kind of help, for example, someone to come and maybe do the shopping or pick up the kids, just because sometimes she was going through her treatment, she was very tired all the time. So she found it hard to ask people and she didn't want to be a burden to bother anyone. So what she was saying that a particular friend did for her, instead of just asking the person, oh, if there's anything you need, let me know, well, it's quite, the person's unlikely to come and approach you and ask for help. But if you say to him, okay, right, I want you to relax this afternoon, take the afternoon off, go out for lunch or something, or take a break, have a rest. I'm going to pick up the kids and I'm going to come round and do your ironing for you. She said just something like that is such a, breath of fresh air, because that's someone that is actually not taking no for an answer. They are coming to help you whether you like it or not. And you need people like that around you sometimes. As I said before, you don't want people tiptoeing around and being gloomy and sad and saying, oh, are you all right? Is everything okay? Do you want to talk about it? They want someone that's more sort of positive and said they're going to help you, which is what your charity does as well, isn't it?
Yes, we do.
Tell us a bit more about the services that you provide, Pam.
Well, I think I talked earlier about the nurses that we fund and the social workers that we employ to work with families. We also have some play specialists that do amazing work with children in hospital. One of the other things they do, which is incredible, actually, the film earlier talked about radiotherapy, and we fund play specialists to help children to get through radiotherapy without needing to be given an anaesthetic and put to sleep for it. Because if you've got a child and for 6 weeks, Monday to Friday, they're going to need a general anaesthetic every single day, and you can work out a way to get them to lie still without needing an anaesthetic. That's just amazing.
How do they do that?
They're great. They work with them. I mean, sometimes, you know, they'll have Teddy goes through radiotherapy before they do it themselves. They have amazing. So we fund things like that, like specialist radiotherapy play specialists. We've got some other things. We arrange holidays for people within the UK. We've got a holiday home in Ayrshire, a very, very windy part of the coast, but and people go there and they get completely catered for, and they have specialist breaks. They might have a whole week for young people who have lost a sibling, for example, to cancer, or they may have a bereavement break for people. And so we have that, and we help them with their travel costs, and we put them up there for nothing. We've got some caravans people can go and stay in. And I guess my favourite bit of what we do is that we run home from homes. For example, Paul's house in London that I'm responsible for. It's really near to UCLH Hospital, and the families whose children are staying in hospital can actually stay in the home, and they get their own room, and it's lovely. I mean, it's like a hotel room, but the place is really, really homely, and they share kitchens and they meet other families, so they get to realise that they're not the only person who feels like their whole world's fallen apart. So they meet other people, and they're beautiful places, and families love them, and it's such an honour to be able to give them that space and not charge them for it. It's brilliant. So I think one of the favourite things that I think for me, I can see your eyes shining when you're talking about it. I can see how much you like to help people in this situation. It's great. It really is. It's great to be able to. And also, I suppose, because we provide a whole sort of package of support, we can work with people from the point of diagnosis right through to either end of treatment or end of life, if that's what happens. And so that's really important for families to have that consistency. That's really good. I love the sound of your charity. Okay, so another type of cancer as well, as you all know, is the common one, is the breast cancer. So let's just take a look at this video to make you more aware of what you should be looking out for. And this is for men as well. Don't forget, it does affect men, even though it's very few compared to women, but it does affect men as well. So please pay close attention to this video.
Every year, about 45,000 women and about 300 men are diagnosed with breast cancer. Breast cancer is now the most common cancer in the UK, and over a lifetime, about 1 in 9 women will be affected. About 8 out of 10 people who are affected are over the age of 50, but if it's spotted early, it's much easier to treat.
In this film, we'll tell you about the signs and symptoms of breast cancer, and you'll meet someone who's had breast cancer and whose treatment has been a success.
It's really important for women to be aware of what's normal for them in terms of their breasts. The sort of things you should be looking out for would be a change in the shape, in the size or the feel of your breasts. Perhaps a lump or a thickening either in the breast or going up into the armpit. There could be redness, dimpling, puckering of the skin around the nipple or anywhere else in the breast, or a change in the position of the nipple or discharge from the nipple. Although it's not often a problem, a new discomfort or pain, especially if it's in only one breast, does need to be looked out for.
5 years ago, Donata Fernandez knew nothing about breast cancer.
I had come to UK to join my husband, and I was living here for 5 months when I got called for a mammogram by Charing Cross Hospital. And I felt, having no signs and symptoms, why did I have to go?
Come in. Well, the NHS breast screening programme invites women every 3 years between the ages of 50 and 70 to come along and have a breast x-ray, so that if a breast cancer is present, we can find it early and treat it. Keep quite still, I'm going to take your picture now. The mammogram, it can actually pick up very, very small changes in the breast, too small to be felt.
Following her mammogram, Donata was referred to a specialist who took a sample of breast tissue, a biopsy, for analysis. The test results revealed she had breast cancer.
I was very shocked. I felt at that moment that I was going to die, but the doctor reassured me that they could do my operation and I would be saved.
Donata's treatment involved surgery and radiotherapy. Her early diagnosis meant that she received treatment at an early stage when it's likely to be most effective.
Looking back, I feel that this mammogram has saved my life. It has given me the opportunity to see my 2 new grandchildren. I feel that all women living in this country who are privileged and invited to this mammogram should never forego this opportunity.
The message we want to get across to older women is that they need to feel, first of all, aware that because of their age, they need to be breast cancer aware. And secondly, if they do discover a breast change, any breast change, to go straight to the doctor. And if it is cancer, then something can be done about it quickly, and the chances of a treatment that's not severe or disfiguring is extremely high.
Donata's story shows that breast cancer is treatable, but it's vital to spot the disease early so that treatment has a better chance of success.
Okay, welcome back to the show. And actually, we've almost come to an end, so I've just got a quick question for you, Pam. Funding, how does your charity actually get funded?
Well, you know, we're completely dependent on the public donations to be funded. So, I mean, and we get money from individuals who are quite wealthy or individuals whose lives have been touched by, or had children whose lives have been touched by cancer. And we have corporate relationships, and we might have, you know, an organisation where all the staff fundraise for us. We have individuals who run the marathon or abseil down Battersea Tower or do all kinds of things. So we have a whole range. We have people who leave money to us in wills, and we have people who kind of do, you know, like gift aid. But we can never get enough. So certainly, if anyone would like to support us, we'd be very pleased. We can always use more social workers to work with the young people, and so that would be great. And they just need to go on to clicksargent.org.uk or give us a ring.
All right, so all those details will be on our website, chrissybshow.tv. Pam, thank you so much for coming on today. I love, you know, what your charity does. It's a really worthy cause, and I wish you all the best for the future as well.
Thank you.
So, as you know, we have come to the end of the programme. Now, we do have our funny video of the day. So, as we said, humour is very, very important. And just to let you know about Monday's programme, it's going to be all about things never to say to your children. If you want to know more about that, you can go to our website. You'll love it's a good one, you know. You can probably tell us a few things as well, couldn't you? Okay, so that will be Monday's show, but let's leave you with this funny video, and we'll see you again on Monday, and have a lovely weekend. And did England win, by the way? Does anyone know the score? No? No one knows the score? Oh, okay, I'll have to find out after the show. So we'll see you after this. Bye.
Probably over behind it. Oh, you got her!
This is what our dog thinks of America's Funniest Videos.
We're at your leisure. Watch where you step. We're going to the dog park. It's always sad when a dog gets hit by a car.
Oh my God! to go to the bathroom, Chester? Huh? I can't believe he's still going.